Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat with Girija. My name is Girija Bhargav Patel. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I am a podcaster, I am an educator, I am a businesswoman, I am an entrepreneur, and I'm a lawyer. I truly believe in the power of mentorship through storytelling, and that's what Law Chat is all about. So whether you are in 6 months or 10 years of business experience, we can all learn from each other's experiences because we face the same challenges and we have the victories and we have mistakes that we're all making. So why not lean into them and know that we're going to be fine and we're going to be okay and we're going to be inspired. And of course, this is Law Chat with Girija, so we will be talking about some law at some point during the conversation. And if you love what you hear today, which I know you will, then subscribe to Law Chat with Girija and share the love. So grab your coffee, sparkling water, or wine, and let's dive in to the next inspiring mentorship session. Hi friends, welcome to Law Chat. Oh, do I have a sexy episode for you today? Scandalizing? Maybe. But exciting stories? Absolutely. Today, I have a dear friend, primetime celebrity, and intimacy expert, Dr. Viviana Coles. Okay, reality TV has nothing on this genius. I mean, I don't know if you have seen her on Married at First Sight, but you might recognize her from there. But more than that, Dr. Viviana is a president and lead psychotherapist at Houston Relationship Therapy and the president and lead instructor at the Texas Sex Therapy. She is not shy to share her opinions on Married at First Sight, and she recently just launched a new book called 4 Intimacy Styles, which you can kind of see behind her right now. I am so honored to have you here. I am just so excited to have you here too. And I'm happy that we actually met each other at the Memorial Park in Houston, Texas, because it was just like, it had to happen. And I'm so happy that you're here. So welcome, Dr. Viviana Coles.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Girija. I feel like we've obviously known each other for years and years and years and years, but to know each other in a professional sense it's finally happening. You know, we're moms, we've got our careers, and now we can finally chat about how we make it all work or try to make it all work.
And I think that's the cool thing, right? Like I know you through my sister-in-law. And so it is so cool because the journey from which I have seen has always been not necessarily like right by your side, but just from a little bit away. And it's so impressive to see where you are today. And yes, as a mother, as a woman, I'm like, wow, how did you do that? And I'm pretty sure everybody else is also like, how did you do that? And how are you still doing it? It's so interesting and fascinating. And more than anything, it's inspiring. So tell me though, where did this whole desire start to be somebody who goes into, you know, like talking about sex and intimacy? Because I feel like it can be very uncomfortable. So where did this all begin?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a household that was pretty reserved when it came to sexuality. The messages that I got about sexuality from my Latino parents were, you know, hey, wait until you're old enough to be able to handle having a baby because you want to really try to avoid unwanted pregnancy until you're really ready to be able to handle it. And probably they didn't like say you have to be married, but they just wanted me to be an adult. Mm-hmm. For them, the messages about sexuality were all about avoid unwanted pregnancy because it will change your course of life in a way that will limit your options. And they've always wanted me to live a life of having options. Mm-hmm. And so now I feel like I really understand that messaging in general, not so much with the sexuality stuff, but in general, that you should try to live a life as much as you can that allows for you to have choices. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really allowed me to get to where I am today and to feel very content and satisfied in my personal life and in my business life is because I do have the options and choices. And a lot of that has to do with the type of education that I had growing up. I went to an all-girls private Catholic school, which is how I know your sister-in-law. And it was all about female empowerment. It was all about, you know, the top of the class is a female, the top athlete is a female, the nerd, the drama, like it's all female. And so for me, I always felt like the world is female. That was the message I got, you know, from school. I went on to get my bachelor's in psychology. That was something that my advisor from the all-girls private Catholic school, Duchesne Academy here in Houston, taught me was like, hey, you love to talk. You love to talk with people about whatever's going on in their lives. Go check out Psychology and Sociology 101. And if it's a fit, you're going to love it. And if it's not, try something else. So it was definitely a fit, so much so that I graduated in 3 years because I wanted to fast track. I knew I needed to get my master's in order to practice as a clinician in psychotherapy. And then I also knew in my family that it was definitely preferred and strongly urged that I get my doctorate in whatever it is that I do. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I had a lot more schooling to go to.
Yeah.
Fast track through college, went and got my master's in marriage and family therapy, and then got my doctorate in marriage and family therapy. Things started to really slow down when I was getting my doctorate because right after I graduated with my master's, I got married. 3 months later, we decided to get pregnant with our first, and it wasn't actually until I was 7.5 months pregnant with our second and our last that I graduated with my doctorate. So it took years and years and years. Things definitely slowed down, but all during that time, I was able to practice. Mm-hmm. So I've had my private practice, and I've been working with clients since 2003. My private practice started sometime around 2006, but I have always been just very singularly focused. There's something about, and you probably know this in law practice as well, there's something really powerful about having a focused niche that you work with. I love being able to put all of my energy, my resources, my education, my training, my focus with podcasts and interviews, and even on TV, all of that. I love that it's focused on couples and relationships and individuals who are experiencing intimacy issues and sexuality, like all of that, being able to not have to be a jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. There's just something really powerful in that. So it really helped me to get through my education because I just was like, eye on the prize. You want to have your own practice. You want to be flexible. You want to have a flexible schedule. You want to work for yourself so that you can have a family life. Yeah. You want to be able to travel. I love traveling.
Yeah.
And so for me, it did help to have this like straight line mentality. Now, the sex stuff was not part of that road. I didn't even think about that I didn't even know it was an option until I was getting my master's in marriage and family therapy, which is where I went. I went to Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale. It was amazing. A great place to get your doctorate and your master's. And over there in Florida, it's the only state that requires that if you say that you're going to do sex therapy, that you actually get certified and do the training and education.
Oh, wow.
Which is unusual. Again, it's the only state. So for me, I was like, well, I do have the option to do extra training. A lot of therapists do. They tend to kind of specialize in something. Wasn't interested in play therapy. I've never really been that person who's like, I want to be a teacher and work with kids. And on top of that, working with kids as a therapist is not actually playing with them. It's very, very difficult, very heart-wrenching, it's just very hard. So knew I didn't want to do that. Knew I didn't want to go to art therapy. It's not my bag. Drama therapy, substance abuse, also not my specialty or forte. So I was like, okay, what else is there? There was sex therapy. And I thought, you know what? This could be interesting. I've never really had any issue talking about sex. At the time, it wasn't really on my radar, but I thought, if I'm going to be seeing couples, I need to be able to at least have that conversation. Should they ever bring it up? I don't want to look like a deer caught in headlights.
Right.
And through getting all of my supervision hours, my client hours through that, I fell in love with it. I just thought, my goodness, this is fun, interesting. People appreciate it. It's never the same. And that really helped me to feel like, okay, between having my license as a marriage and family therapist and having my certification as a sex therapist, I've got this whole couples and relationship thing down. Mm-hmm. But it really wasn't until I moved back to Houston and started my private practice and put that I was a certified sex therapist on my business card, back when we used to use business cards, that people were like, oh, wait. And then word got out.
Yeah.
And it was like, I had clients out the door and I had to bring on, and at that point it was like, again, I was pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to see all these people? I hate turning people away. I still do. That's why I think my practice is so big, is because I keep bringing people on to answer the demand. Mm-hmm. And it just really got to a place where I felt like I needed to have support staff. So that's when I brought on interns who were also needing to be trained, who wanted to be sex therapists. And now there are like 7 or 8 of us that work at my private practice, which is Houston Relationship Therapy. And we see clients from all over the world through coaching. I'm licensed now in Texas, of course, and California and New York State. I have a lot of celebrity clients, so I want to be able to see them wherever they are and actually do therapy. Mm-hmm. You do have to have a licensure as a marriage and family therapist or a social worker or professional counselor. If you're going to actually do psychotherapy, you have to have it in that state where they are. So it's interesting because that's kind of skipping forward, but I've always just been so focused, and sometimes to the point where I don't really know what's going on around me as far as what's going on in the field. Sometimes I'm like, oh, there's a new book out and somebody just told me about it. And they're like, no, it's been out for like 5 years. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've been focusing on practicing. But yeah, I get a little bit singularly focused, but it really does help me to not get caught in the weeds.
Wow. I mean, it is, I just feel very mind blown right now because I'm just like, wow, like so much has been achieved by you. And yes, it wasn't easy because I know like as a parent, as a mom, it can be tough. And juggling all of that, the guilt is real, the time management issues are real, and feeling defeated is real also. So when you had those, trying to go through and getting your doctorate degree or trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I need to scale my business now because there's not enough of me. So I need to add more people. How did you make those decisions? And what were some of the mindset shifts that you needed to go through?
Well, I'll tell you, it definitely, I mean, I do not take it for granted that I have a partner in life, my husband, Bobby, who has been so instrumental, and it's like he's the backbone, right? I mean, he's not just the backbone of our family, but he's like the backbone of my ability to go out and work as hard as I do. That's not even to say what's happened in the past few years with TV. We'll definitely get to that. But
yeah, I know.
Growing, I mean, he has always been a hands-on dad. He's had a full-time job. Like we're very much a partnership. Mm-hmm. I'm the one who has all these like huge ideas, and he's more steadfast. I think at times I felt like he has to be more steadfast because I'm like, let's try this and let's try that. But it works out well. On top of that, I do have amazing family here. My whole family, my husband's whole family, like everyone lives in Houston. I've always relied on my parents to be our caregivers, like for the kids and babysitters. And again, coming from a Latino family, you understand what that's like with your culture as well. Having family, again, provides so many choices and mm-hmm. options. Mm-hmm. And I've never taken that for granted. We've never taken that for granted. And we cherish the fact that not only are they helping to kind of make everyday life easier, but they continue to kind of give us that feel of like close family structure. And I really think that that's what helps me to feel like I can go out and do these things because I do have a secure attachment, mm-hmm. Not just in my caregivers, but in our home as well. So it definitely takes a village. I've also been so fortunate. I can't downplay the fact that the people that I've brought to my team at Houston Relationship Therapy, such drive to not only to do their best when they're working with clients, but to have a workplace that is enjoyable, that is less stressful. What we do is stressful enough, mm-hmm. but all of these women are just, I don't know. I can't say that it's luck, but it certainly does feel like, wow, I can't believe that these women came into my life and that I was able to bring them onto the team when they did, because I feel so comfortable and I don't have to be like behind them. And then I have an office manager, Taylor, who's been my right hand. She's also becoming a therapist. Like we all work as such a good team that it makes me be able to say, okay, that's good. I can worry about my own clients. I don't have to worry about everything else. I leave that to them. So it's great.
Yeah. I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation, but I have to stop and talk with you about the number one thing I'm asked about by entrepreneurs: contracts. They're vital to any business relationship and to protect your business. But I also know that entrepreneurs, especially when you're starting up, money is tight. But I would never want you to compromise on a strong legal foundation. So enter yourcontractbuddy.com, a website created by me with contract templates created and drafted by me and fellow industry partners. They're ready to use and easy to plug in immediately. And they are not restricted to any specific state. So yourcontractbuddy.com is sponsoring this episode, and you and your listener can get 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. Yes, you heard me right. 10% off right now with code LAWCHAT. And now, back to our awesome conversation. I love how you said earlier that live a life where you have choices. And I just love that perspective, actually, because sometimes, I'm trying to live a life just like that with flexibility. And that's why I have my own practice also, doing my own thing. So I can maneuver things around and play Tetris with my life when I need to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also have choices, and I didn't realize that. Like, I didn't think that, oh yeah, I do have choices and I have the choice to do these things. So I just love that. But for the mother who is wanting to grow her business or wanting to grow in her professional life, but feels immense guilt to put that motherhood on the side for the moments that you need to pour into your professional life, what would you say to that person in order for them to help move to the next step?
Well, I think it's important to remember that motherhood does not just equal raising your kids, or I guess it's not the daily taking care of their lives. I think overall, being a mother is actually shaping who they are becoming and shaping their emotional health, their intellectual health, of course, their physical health, but it's so much more than the physical. And for me, I feel like I am absolutely being a good mother by teaching the kids that you can have a happy life. You can have a happy profession. You can try new things. You don't have to feel encumbered by motherhood. I mean, I almost feel like I would hate for them to feel like I had to lose opportunities because of them and because I needed to stick right by them. The other thing is that it is very much age appropriate at this point in my life to be doing what I'm doing, because when they were younger, I don't think I would have had the ability to do it to this extent. I would have had to say no to some opportunities because they weren't as independent. They didn't understand where I'm going, that just probably wouldn't have worked. So timing was very important. But I feel like when they were younger, teaching them, look, your job eventually is going to be to go to school and be a good person. That's our message that we give to the kids. You go to school, that's your job. Be a good person, that's your job. For me, this is what my job looks like. And I get to do all of that because we all work as a team together. So I just think for the women who are feeling guilty, remember that motherhood is not just taking care of their physical health, but it's also shaping who they are as adults. And if you feel good about the work that you're doing, if you're able to help others in the work that you're doing, if you're able to provide for your family because of the work that you're doing, that's all very, very valuable information for kids to learn from you. Teaching them boundaries through that as well. If you have zero boundaries in your work life and you have no work-life balance, well, it would behoove both of you, not just the kids, but you as well, for you to start to create some of those boundaries and work on the work-life balance stuff. But that's separate from guilt. I think that the guilt for a lot of us has really come from other women.
What you should be doing and how you should
what you should be doing, how you should be doing it. We hear about it all the time when we have, if we have parents who are very like Barinskis, right? Like they just like, do it this way, do it that way. And if you read any sort of blogs and mommy things. It's, if it's a forum, you get people telling you exactly what to do and how to do it. And then you get just as many people telling you to do it another way.
Yeah.
I think it's very important that if you feel like you have guilt, that you try to figure out why. I think it's also very important that you really look at that and identify the different parts of your life. What I like to do with clients sometimes when it comes to really figuring out their identity is I'll have them write down on a sheet of paper all the different parts of who they are. And then I have them write down on a separate sheet of paper what they think a balanced identity would look like. And, they can depict it however they want, but usually it's like the bigger the space, they might use colors or whatever, but they'll start to realize, gosh, the reason I feel imbalanced is because there are these other things that don't have that much meaning and value to me and they're not a value added to my life, that are taking up too much space. So I need to make those smaller. I need to make these other ones bigger. I don't think we have to get rid of just about anything. I just think we need to give it its place. Everything in its place, because again, I do feel like wealth for me is having options. And so I don't think it's about giving anything up. It's just making it work for you and making it smaller when it needs to be smaller and bigger when it needs to be bigger.
Oh gosh, so much wisdom. I'm like taking it and running with it right now.
We'll have to have a part 2 another day.
I feel like we do. Private part 2. Oh gosh, so much wisdom and you're so right. A lot of the guilt does come from the external factors around us or the things that we've been hearing our whole life and how it should be and how we want it to be, but our want does not align with the should. And then there's a discrepancy there. And I love the exercise that you do also, that what are the things that you are doing and how would you want it to be? And that's great.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because you did bring up, obviously you're a lawyer, and I think one of the main reasons that I think a lot of business owners can have stress is if they feel like they don't know that what the system is that they've created will stand up to legal issues, will stand up to complaints, will stand up to criticisms and those sorts of things. So again, I mean, it's kind of jumping into a different arena, but if you're feeling guilty about doing something in your business, why? Not if it's not a personal issue, is it because professionally, you're cutting corners, you don't have the right, procedures and all of that. And I think, again, if you do that from the get-go, and if you need to re-up when it comes to continuing education, when it comes to your licensures, all those things. If you're going to own a business, you need to make sure that the legal side is absolutely taken care of so that you can just focus on what it is that you want to do. You don't have to focus on so much of the management of the business. And knowing that there are professionals out there who that's all they do is help people make sure that their businesses are compliant and all of that can help you, again, to not have to worry about the grunt work and just do the stuff that you want to do.
Okay, I love that plug for me. I think that's great. And I absolutely agree with you. I think
it's so true.
It's so true, though. Peace of mind, whether it's professional or personal, is very necessary. And what gives you peace of mind is to know that things are working properly. They are, in operations properly. So I love that. And generally I ask this question towards the end of, our time is, when was a time where you felt like, oh crap, I totally needed legal help over here? Or you're just like, I did so great because I absolutely was proactive and I got my legal ducks in a row. So I know in your business.
This is a good segue into TV, because since 2019, I've been working with Lifetime's Married at First Sight, and now I'm on a second show that also airs on Wednesday nights. It's called Married at First Sight Unmatchables. Every time, because this is the first, I've never really had, how do I say this? It sounds funny, but I've never really had to work for anyone else since being like a full-on adult. Right. Ever since I started my own practice, I've done everything the way that I want to do, and have had legal help throughout the way. But let me tell you, when contracts that have nothing to do with informed consent or, creating businesses, all of that come in, I'm like, I need help.
Yes.
So that was the last time, was when I first had, my offer and my contract come in. I wanted to make sure that that I understood what I was signing up for. Because if you Google reality TV show contracts, it is the scariest thing, which, by the way, half of them did not apply. I don't know where a lot of these people are getting this information, but certainly not with who I'm working with. But they're very scary. They're very intimidating. It's always just like, we own you forever. Not the case, but I mean, I guess it could be if you sign something like that.
Yeah.
So I definitely wish that I had ready to go an entertainment attorney. So finding an attorney that is within the niche that you're looking for and that you're working for is very important. And fortunately, we have lots of options, but it takes time to find the right one, and it takes time to hear back from them. So I was able to work with a friend's husband who was an attorney, and he kind of walked me through that. We went back and forth and kind of worked on everything before I signed on the dotted line. But for any renewals and things like that, I had an entertainment attorney, and then now I have an amazing one. She's in Texas. She's out of Austin. But I just feel like if you have any sort of inkling that something is in your future, have somebody at the ready, have an attorney who can really help you walk through it. Because again, you want to have that peace of mind and feel like you have choices.
Right.
And there's nothing like having somebody who actually knows what that is all about to be able to help you feel that way and not help you feel like you're being pigeonholed or stuck or, anything like that. Legalities are very important. They will always be very important. And so, again, to be able to just do what I want to do and do what I've been asked to do on TV, having the kind of the legal ramifications diminished as much as possible is very important.
Absolutely. I think especially, when you're working with other people and you're creating content and you're creating content for them while you're on their show, but then it's you, there's so many layers to that contract and interests that are happening there that it truly does. You need to have somebody who is well versed in that industry to know.
Along with that, even with the book, I had to go into copyright law years ago, because I'm one of those people that the minute that I have an idea, I research it, I buy the domain, I copyright this, I copyright that, because if I'm going to dive in, like I tend to do into projects, I don't want it to be taken away from me due to legalities. I have
a smart point.
That I have thought and won that before but there was someone else who wanted something that I already had and was trying to, take it away. And I was like, no, I have all the receipts. And so they had to give up their fight. But it was stressful because I thought, my goodness, what if this is taken away from me, this thing that I've worked on for years and years and years and years. So yes, I'm one of those people who's willing to invest on something, even if it's not going to happen until 5-10 years later. Right. And with the book, having a copyright attorney is very important, and trademark attorney and all of that. So there is a real value in these professionals who can walk you through everything.
Right. I completely agree with you, because if you hadn't done that, you would have probably lost, or might have, or the fight would have been harder. And
more expensive.
Yeah,
and when you're starting out,
but
nobody wants to spend money on that.
No, and I think you raised a great point, is that you don't want to create something just for someone else to take it, and under the law, rightfully so, take it, even though you believe it to be yours. So it's very good to do all your due diligence beforehand rather than after the fact. But I want to take this moment. Yeah, I want to take this moment and jump to your reality TV thing. Like, how did that happen? How did those opportunities come to you? And what was going on in your mind when you're like, okay, yeah, no, maybe so? Like, how did it happen?
Oh, there was a whole lot of, yeah, no, maybe so. I think a lot of people would probably think that if somebody approaches you about doing anything on TV, it's like, say yes. No, that is not the case for me. I'm first and foremost, besides a mom and, besides my whole personal life, I'm first and foremost a psychotherapist. That's what I do day in and day out. I see clients. And that has always been my bread and butter. That is, Houston relationship therapy has continued to grow, and it takes a lot of heart to make that happen, because I love my profession. I love what I do. People are jealous of how much I love it. I'm always like, find that thing that you love to do, because then it's never boring, and it's never draining to the extent that you would have burnout. So for me, I wanted to make sure that I could preserve that. And one of my co-stars and colleagues, Pastor Cal Roberson, I remember, I think the first night that we all met when I signed on and started with Married at First Sight, we were out in the lobby of the hotel, and we were talking about the business, because I was like, I know how to be a therapist. Oh, I can certainly do that. And I feel comfortable on screen and on camera. I had done a lot of that here in Houston. But when it comes to the actual business of production, I had no clue. I didn't know what kind of time it would take, what kind of effort it was going to take, what the backlash could be, all of that. And he was like, look, if you don't watch it, this will take over your whole life, and it will be everything that you do. And if you don't want that to happen, just preserve it. Preserve your work life and make sure that you set boundaries for yourself. He's like, it's a wonderful thing, but you're going places, and this is going places. So just be mindful of that. And it was something that to this day continues to stick with me, because I have held very strongly onto keeping and making sure that my private practice is going, and that my book, keeps happening. And I just have always felt like you need to diversify. You don't want to go all in on one thing, because as we've learned through having lived through this pandemic, things can be shifted like that, and you might be left with nothing. So having different sources of income, different sources of professional growth, I think is super important. And so when they asked me about this, it was not an easy question, because I was like, okay, well, what is the demand going to be? Of course, they will say, well, this is what we're asking you to do now, but who knows? In the future, there might be this, there might be that, there might be a spinoff. Sure enough, there's been a spinoff. And all of that is more time and energy that goes into it, because there's a lot of, for the minutes that are on TV, there are hours and weeks that go into that. Yeah. So I have held really fast to that. Now, I love it. And I love it so much, being on TV, working with couples and individuals, and giving them advice, because that's basically, we're just guiding them through this process and through whatever, snapshot of their marriage issues we're working with them on. I just love that it's using a skill set that I don't tend to have to use with clients, because with clients, I get to have a client therapist relationship, and I get to speak with them on a weekly basis, sometimes more than that. I check in with them, multiple times. I get to see them separately and individually whenever I want, whenever they want. This is very much get in, handle whatever it is that's going on, help them to take away something very succinctly, and then move on. And then somebody else gets to come in, because there are three of us. So for me, this is it's almost I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. I come in, I try to figure things out. I help them as quickly as I can. I move on, because this is very fast paced for them. Yeah. And we don't get to hold their hands through it. Nobody really gets to hold your hand through marriage. So we want them to grow on their own and really solidify who they are as a couple. But on top of that, just the opportunities of being able to talk to people like you, and being able to talk to so many people that I would have never had, any sort of interactions with, online. I was never a social media person. I didn't get Instagram until maybe just a few years ago. I kept avoiding it. I'm like, who wants to see anything about me on Instagram? I'm a therapist. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't want to have one of those Instagram pages that is all inspirational quotes. You can get that from anywhere, right? I get inspirational quotes emailed to me every morning to start my day. So for me, it was like, why am I doing this? But now the amount of interest that people have in relationships, in love, in sex and intimacy, in the ongoing, behind the scenes stuff of what's happening on TV, radio, interviews, all of that. Like, I'm like, okay, how wonderful to have these platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, to be able to interact with people. Again, I get to talk to so many people that I would have never had any contact with, except if they were my clients across the couch. Now I get to talk to all sorts of people.
That's how I feel with my podcast, that I get to talk to such amazing humans. Like, each person that comes, they've achieved so much. They have so much wisdom to share, and it just blows my mind every single time. And I love that, you are on TV, you're doing what you're supposed to do on TV, but at the same time, you're like, I got to retain this piece of mind, my practice, my real reality of my life, and I still have to preserve that. And I think that's such great advice for others who are also venturing out into other things, or even, using social media as a platform for marketing, but then not losing focus on what actually is needed to get done in order for that marketing to be successful. And so
I've learned so much about marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fortunately, I know a lot of people who do it, but I mean, there's so much to making sure that people know that you're not just a one note kind of person. Certainly, everyone who has followed the show knows that the experts' roles can be gone from one season to the next. And why that happens, there's all sorts of ranges, right? You make one misstep, you don't, I mean, it could be anything. So for me, I don't see this as, I got this is what I need to just settle in. It's no, I'm going to do the best job that I can do, have as much fun with it as I can, because it could be gone. And fortunately, I have other things to fall on.
Yeah. So how did this opportunity come to you? Was it something you signed up for, or was it something that they are like, she's awesome, let's go reach out to her?
So back, it's crazy, but back in 2015, I was doing a ton of stuff here locally with Houston. I really enjoyed the live segments that I was doing. And then I got, over the course of 2015, 2017, I was contacted by 3 different production companies. 2 or 3, I can't remember. And they were like, hey, we have this show that we want to try to get onto the air. Can we do some Skype interviews with you as an expert? We want you to kind of talk about the topic, and maybe it'll turn into something, maybe it won't. Will you help us? And so I was like, okay. And that was my first foray into understanding what production kind of starts to look like. And I remember saying yes to everything. I was like, yeah, I don't care what the show is about. Let's see what it's like, because it's so far-fetched for a show to actually become something that you end up watching on TV. There are so many pilots. There are so many sizzle reels. There's so many things out there that you would never know were even a thought. So for me, it was like, sure, I'll say yes, because if something comes out of it, I know I won't do anything I don't want to do, but it may turn into something. So over the course of 2 years, I was doing all these things, but nothing ever came of them. And then around 2017, I thought, you know what? These people keep contacting me. Maybe there's something they're seeing in me that I need to capitalize on. That's the business side of me that my dad taught me. He's like, capitalize on everything. Just stay true to yourself and don't give up rights to anything. I was like, okay.
Great
that's
advice.
A whole other talk. So I ended up saying, you know what, let me find a production company that already has relationship and love and dating shows already out there, and see, I'll just send them my curriculum vitae. I'll create a little reel that has all of my TV spots that I've done so that they can get a sense of me. I have all my licenses. I put everything down there, and degrees and all that. And I sent it to them. I found them on LinkedIn. It's just Kinetic Content. And the next day I got an email saying, hey, we checked everything out. We'd love to meet with you via Skype. Let's meet on such and such date. Same thing happened for the next 2 years because there were no openings on any of their shows. But they were developing new shows. They're always developing new ideas. Mm-hmm. And nothing ever came of those for me. I think some of the shows actually went on to production, but they didn't come to me. And so I was like, I remember it was like 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock California time. And this was 2 years later. And I'm in bed and we're all watching TV. There's the four of us are in bed and we're watching TV. And I get a call. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the casting department. And I put it on speaker and they're like, hey, are you available still? Have you signed on with anyone? I'm like, no. And they're like, please hold because we want you. Stand by. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
And like, it was crazy. After that, it was just like, go, 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 go. I ended up, needing to negotiate my contract and everything. 5 days before I was on set, I signed my contract.
Wow. And so just I think I was trying to do the math. This was like 4 years after or 5 years after the initial people reaching out to you?
Yeah, it was about 4 years. Yeah, it was about 4 years later. But again, it's one of those things where life went on.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you get an email and you're like, okay, I'll try it and see what this is like. Oh, the Dr. Phil wants this. And, it was always like, sure, why not? Because again, you never know. And most of the time, nothing happens. Yeah. So for all of you out there who are interested in TV, don't say no until you know more about it. Because it may sound like, oh, wow, no, this can't be real. No, it's real. It's real. It's out there. And after that, it's just been amazing. This team, everyone feels so genuine, so authentic. We all want the same things. They all want us to succeed. They all want the couples to succeed. They all want the people to learn something. It is like, I feel like I won the lottery working with Kinetic Content because they're so in line with how I feel about what love should look like. And the part of it that I think is a struggle for viewers is that for me as a therapist, I see all of the ugly.
Right.
That's why a lot of people come to see me. Some people do come to see me because they want to strengthen the already good stuff.
Right.
But the vast majority of the people that I've seen since 2003 are in an ugly state. They need a lot of help. They've gone through a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. I think it's not that I'm desensitized to it, but when I see it on TV, I'm like, yes, this is real life. This is how people talk to each other, probably 10 times worse. I also know that they tend to not show nearly as bad as things could get or have gotten. So I appreciate that they protect not just us as the experts, but and really try to show what we're trying to get across, but they also protect the participants. That's huge because I've watched
refreshing to hear also.
I've watched a lot of when I was doing research for this part, I watched reality TV shows and I was like, they showed that? Why would they show that person's never going to be able to leave the house again? So I am so fortunate to be a part of it. I would love to be a part of it for as long as they'll have me, but all the while knowing that, it might be gone. And I need to have, again, all of you need to always have something to fall back on.
Yep, absolutely. So before we wrap it up, I'd love to actually ask you, what was like one of the craziest things you've ever seen in your line of work?
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm sure there's many, but
in my line of work, the craziest thing that I've seen, I mean, I've heard some interesting stories, especially when it comes to sexual preferences. There are things that I've heard that I'm like, that cannot be sanitary, or that can't be safe. Or how do you find someone that will want to do that with you? That happens. I don't know that that's necessarily crazy. I can say that working on the show, anytime that they're like, you don't have time to change, we got to go right now, they need your help right now, that's like a huge adrenaline rush because I never know what's going on with the couple that I'm about to work with.
Yeah.
It's usually pretty planned out, but the times that it hasn't been, I don't know. I almost feel like when you're on Cops, and well, no, I've never been on Cops, but you know, when they're like rushing over and like
Yeah.
running after, that's how it feels, like that adrenaline rush of like, okay, what am I going to walk into? Because I love the challenge. I love the not knowing. I've been doing this for a long time. It takes a lot to surprise me. So when there's an element of surprise or like an element of, I'm going to have to think quickly, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I bet you see a lot of fun stuff on TV also when you're working with everybody. Oh,
I do.
that's so wonderful. So if somebody wants to reach out to you,
Yeah.
how do they reach out
So
to you? How do they connect with you?
yeah. So if you're looking to become a client of mine, you can go to drviviana.com, spell it out, DOCTOR, Viviana. You can also go to my private practice website, follow us on Instagram. So all the handles that you'll need to know are at Dr. Viviana, at Houston Relationship Therapy. And now, if you're interested in a book that has all of my secrets as to how to keep lasting physical intimacy in your relationship, go to forintimacystyles.com. It's on pre-order right now. I have so many and amazing things and things in the works to be able to help couples with this. There will be workshops. There will be all sorts of giveaways. I really want to lean into supporting small business.
Mm-hmm.
This is my opportunity to really do something different. Again, it's about options. I have the opportunity and the option to professionally self-publish. And I've always known that if I ever had to write a book or ever wanted to write a book, if I just felt compelled to do that, that I would self-publish. Again, owning the rights to everything, making as much of your own money back is very important. And being able to have creative control over everything is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I have the platform, I have amazing women who know how to do all of this stuff in my corner. I felt like I'm going to do that. So as part of that and supporting other small businesses, I want to do book signings in independent booksellers, especially right now, because in the pandemic, they're all hurting. So I will be exclusively doing that. That said, you can buy the book exclusively on my website. I will have ebooks coming out, paperback coming out. Is it on Amazon
also?
No, because I'm not giving Amazon any of my money.
Wow. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to have all the links in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you.
So everybody can have easy access to you.
Yeah. And again, if your relationship is going well, awesome. This is another way to keep it going well. Right. If your relationship is really struggling in intimacy department, this is a way to do that too. It's a small investment in something that usually clients have to pay a whole lot to work on with me and to get through. So I'm so excited to finally have it out.
I love that. I'm actually going to be going and buying one from your website as well, because I love supporting friends, but then also I think this is going to be a great book.
And I'm signing everyone's. That's the other thing about being able to not go through Amazon. I get to sign the book. So that was actually a really big part of it.
Yeah.
I am going to sign all of the hardcovers. I will dedicate it. So far, I've gotten orders from 16 different states, and I don't know why, but that is so cool to me. I'm like, I want to get all 50. I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
great goal. Great
to have that actual interaction with the reader.
Yeah.
And there's an online community. It is a private community. It's called For Intimacy Styles on Facebook, and that's for everyone who wants to discuss it.
Okay, great. All the links will be there.
Thank
you. Before we head out, I'm not going to ask you your favorite book because it is For Intimacy Styles. But what I'm going to ask you, though, is what is your anchor?
My
anchor. When things just aren't going the way you want them to go, what's your anchor? What holds you steady?
I truly believe in the power of coaching and counseling. So when I feel like things are out of control, I call my executive business coach. Because fortunately, when it comes to my personal life, I have such an amazing husband. We can work through things like that together. But when it comes to the business part of things, I like to have my hands in a lot of things. So sometimes those plates that I'm juggling are freakishly close to falling. And so I will reach out immediately to my executive business coach, Juliana, and we'll have a session within a few days. And she just helps me to like figure it all out.
Yeah.
So I truly believe in it. I think it's very important to get help with that.
I agree. I think coaching is huge. I remember when I was little watching Oprah and she said, I have a coach for many different things. I don't have one coach. I have a coach for so many different aspects in my life. And it's really brilliant to like see that, because you know that, yes, she's accomplishing a lot. You're accomplishing a lot, but there's also many other people, like you said, that are part of that help you and bolster you and support you. So I think that's fantastic. Well, I have had such a great time talking to you. I feel like we could keep going on because there's so much to talk about, and maybe I'll have you back on again.
I'd love to. Yeah.
I know. It was just so great talking to you, but wishing you the best luck with your new book and the new spin-off that you're working on. And I will watch you on TV. And thank you again.
Wednesday nights on Lifetime. At some point you might get sick of me, but not yet.
No, can't happen. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Girija.
Thank you so much for joining Law Chat with Girija. I just love these kind of conversations. Conversations that are motivating, inspiring, but truthful, raw, and honest about all of the challenges, all of the victories, all of the triumphs, picking ourselves back up again. I just can't think of a better way to get mentorship but Law Chat with Girija. If this was helpful to you or this was inspiring to you, please share the love. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to this channel. You can also share this with your community by taking a screenshot and posting it on your social media and tagging GBP Law. When you do that, a lot more people will be able to see this video that not only benefited you, but also can benefit them as well. So let's share that love and let's share that inspiration. And if you want more information about what I do and other resources, go check out gbplaw.com or yourcontractbuddy.com. And I look forward to seeing you next time.